Greetings from Paha Sapa, also known as the Black Hills, the place where the Lakota people come to pray for the state of the world. Stan Gibilisco here. I would just like to make a little remark about alternative fuels. Here is an alternative fuel, which is serving right now to heat my house instead of the furnace. I've described this on a number of occasions in my Nerd Cave tours. And just yesterday, that would have been January 8th. January 7th would have been yesterday. January 8th, 2014 is today. A professor in China told me something very interesting. He is translating my book, Alternative Energy Demystified, 2nd edition, for publication in China in Chinese. And he had a number of questions about that book, clarifying language differences and possible technical matters. And he pointed out to me something very interesting. He said that when you burn wood, like I'm doing right here, right now, you do not, in fact, contribute to the net atmospheric CO2. Because, he said, the CO2 in the wood, which of course comes from trees, originally came from the atmosphere. So when you burn that wood, you're simply returning CO2 to the atmosphere that was already there quite recently in geological terms, within decades ago. You're just replacing that carbon dioxide that was already there to begin with. So in fact, burning wood should not contribute to global warming or climate change, which would contrast it with fossil fuels such as coal, methane, oil, gasoline, also known as petrol, and other such fuels which come from sources which got their carbon many, many, many generations, eons, centuries, millennia, maybe even millions of years ago. So that if you burn that kind of fuel, the carbon dioxide that produces presumably would affect the current global CO2 situation. But he had that interesting note to point out. I had actually made a mistake, I guess, in the book when I said that you increase the net CO2 in the atmosphere if you burn wood without replacing that wood with an equal amount of new forestation right away. Well, that may be true if we interpret that as a net temporary increase in CO2. But averaged over a period of time, a reasonable period of time, generations, only a couple of human generations maybe, the point that he was making was that burning wood can't increase the net global CO2 in the atmosphere. So I'm perfectly okay to be doing this. I guess that gets rid of a little bit of the guilt that I might otherwise have. In fact, by burning this wood, my furnace doesn't have to run, and it's not burning the methane, which it otherwise would burn, which is a fossil fuel, and, efficient as it may be, does contribute, presumably, to global warming. I have a little bit of an issue with global warming. Perhaps it's being treated lately more as a religion than a science. I believe the Earth is getting warmer, and I believe that human activity is, in part at least, responsible. But I also have a lot of other issues with it, and with the way that it is being kicked around like a political football. But I don't want to get into that controversy right now. My point is that a professor in China, which is presumably a totalitarian regime where the government controls pretty much everything, was telling me, in effect, I was tempted to tell him, call our EPA and tell them what you just told me. But I won't ask him to do that, but I will. Hey, EPA, you listening? You listening? I suppose you're listening. Or perhaps I should say, I suppose you may hear me, but you might not listen to me. But I don't know. But I feel less guilty anyway now about doing this. That from a purely scientific point of view, I guess I'm all right. Burning wood. Sure is cozy, long as those logs don't fall out of there before I can close that door. Stan Gibilisco signing off. Until next time, so long.